Welcome. You have found Little Church, where we are considering what it means for a church, for a home to be like a church, a site of worship and spiritual formation. And right now we're looking at practices that we create or develop in our homes that will help raise our kids well. And one of those is storytelling, book reading, telling stories. You see, Christians believe in a moral universe. There is good and evil, right and wrong. And in order to develop a moral imagination to direct our heart and our love towards that which is good, we need stories. They nourish our minds and our hearts. And not just any stories. Stories that tell tales of good and evil. There's so many stories that have stripped away because it's offensive or it's a bit scary, or kids may not be ready for monsters and dragons and that sort of thing. So we want to just kind of avoid good and evil. And as a result, the story gets very boring, especially for children. And so read stories to your kids. The Chronicles of Narnia, Harry Potter. There's so many great stories, and the great fairy tales all emerged from a world that believed in good and evil. G.K. Chesterton says something great when it comes to this. He says, "If the characters are not wicked, the book is. We must tell stories the way God does. Stories in which a sister must float her little brother on a river with nothing but a basket between him and the crocodiles. Stories in which a king is a coward and a shepherd boy steps forward to face the giant. Stories with fiery serpents and leviathans and sermons and whirlwinds. Stories in which murderers are blinded on donkeys and become heroes. Stories with dens of lions and fiery furnaces and lone prophets laughing at kings and priests and demons. Stories with heads on platters. Stories with courage and crosses and redemption. Stories with resurrection." Now, I mentioned earlier that I can remember our children when they were very young, all of them at different stages in their early years would express fear at bedtime. They were just afraid. And you will recall my reply to that was, hey, it's okay to be afraid. There's a lot of scary things out there. But here's the thing. God cares for you. And God has and will conquer all that there is to be afraid of. Here's GK again on that topic. He says, "Fairy tales don't tell children the dragons exist. Children already know that dragons exist. Fairy tales tell children the dragons can be killed." And that's what our kids need to know. They need to realize that there really is good and evil in this world, and good is victorious. And so we need stories that share that promise with them. Not necessarily biblical stories even outside of the Bible that share that message.